Okay, today we're going to talk about miter saws. And I'm not going to try to explain everything about miter saws, and I don't know everything about miter saws. This is more about budgeting and building up a shop without spending too much money on one thing at the wrong time. So I have a few different versions here. I don't have everything. I am just going to explain the differences in my own experiences as to what I went through. Because right now, if you've been watching before, you know that the Rigid is my current saw. And I'm going to start off showing you the old-fashioned non-sliding 10-inch miter saw, which I had for over 20 years, and now I hate it. I hate it more than you can imagine after using the other ones. And I hate myself for not replacing it much sooner, and I'll show you why when I'm demonstrating it. Then we move on to the cheaper end of the sliding miter saws. This one is a 7 1/4 inch. I have the 10-inch one, which is what I upgraded that one with, which made my life a whole lot easier. It's at a friend's house right now, so it will be in the video, but I don't have it currently for this part. Okay, and then we're moving on to your more deluxe sliding miter saws. And then of course you have your front slides, so you don't have to use as much in the back, or any in the back really for that matter. And I'm going to show a little bit of footage of the Bosch, which is the unique saw that I saw at a job site, and I was able to play with a little bit just to make a video. But anyway, like I said, it's not about the miter saws, it's about the features that you're going to want to focus on, basically to make sure you don't buy a saw that's going to be rendered useless in a short period of time. Okay, so we're going to demonstrate it one by one here, and I'm going to start with the lowest on the totem pole, in my opinion, the Makita. Now let's get to it. Okay, so here we are with the single bevel 10-inch miter saw. So yeah, basically can only go in one direction, which you're going to find very frustrating as you work along. You end up stuck with that. And then for this one, I lost the knob. It fell out a long time ago, so I just use a bolt here, and then I can just move it back and forth. Okay, so it works fine as a chop saw, but let's see. We're going to use a 2x6 here. I don't even remember, so let's see how it works with a 2x6. Okay, so I managed to get through a 2x6 barely. And obviously this blade is super dull, and this didn't go back down. I'm not fixing any of that because this thing is gone after this video is done. It's somebody else's problem. Okay, so I haven't used this saw in a while, and I knew there was something that really bothered me about it, and I remembered what it is, so I'm going to show it to you right now. This is a 1x6. The same thing with the 2x6. Put it on there. Yeah, this is made by Makita, mind you. Maybe they figured that out in more modern versions, but that's annoying because you have to cut and then flip it up. So let's try a 45. Oh look, it didn't make it all the way through. Now, this gets old real fast. I mentioned I hate this saw, right? Now let's try to cut a 2x8 at 90 degrees. Oh look, didn't make it. So yeah, no good for 2x8s. Unless you, well, first you obviously got to cut it like I did and then flip it around. Thank you for your service. Take a hike. So this is 7¼ inch sliding miter saw from Ryobi. All right, so bevel 45 degrees one way. We can cut up to a 2x10 at 90 degrees. So this, even though this is not a saw that I'm particularly fond of, is still so much nicer than the 10-inch non-sliding saw. So it's not totally useless. I wouldn't recommend it as a woodworking tool, but if you build picnic tables, benches and stuff, it's perfectly fine for that. In fact, my 10-inch one that I have, which is exactly the same as this, only it's bigger, I'll show it to you later. It's just not here right now, as I mentioned before. But I use it for building a lot of stuff. I usually just take it outside, cut out a bunch of stuff in the driveway. I only usually use the big fancy one for precision cuts. So it's not useless. I don't hate this saw like I hate the other one because this saves a lot of time. But I didn't recommend getting the 7¼ I would definitely get the 10-inch. But anyway, I'm not here to explain everything about miter saws. Like I said, I'm not going to explain about deflection. You can look at other videos that are more specific into models of miter saws. But let's move on to the next one. All right, so this is the saw that we started in our earlier videos that I borrowed off of a friend. It's going home as soon as this video is done. So obviously we're getting into the good ones here. It's a 12-inch sliding miter saw, cut out to about 13½ inches at 90 degrees. It's double beveled, so we can go either way. And it goes up to 60 degrees on that side and 50 degrees on this side. So it's got a wider ability. So let's keep making this board shorter and shorter as we go. Yeah, so this one has a shadow line. The Ryobi also does. I just didn't think to turn it on. So what that means is we get a light shining down on the blade, which creates a line. Okay, so that makes it much easier to line up the blade. And then, as a tip here, as I'm doing this, make sure that you let it get all the way up to speed and then come in and push back. That's how you get a cleaner cut, and apparently your blade lasts longer. I'm not sure about that one though. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, so on this saw, being a higher end saw, these ones have the adjustable degrees here. So basically you fine tune the saw. Like I said, I'm not going to get into that, but this is movable for your presets. And then the same thing on the back. So you can adjust it very easily. You can do adjustments on the other ones. Basically, you got to move the fence. They're definitely not as good, but you can adjust the other ones as well. So that's enough about this one. Okay, so here is my rigid saw. The reason why I got this one is because it has a whole lot of range on it, height-wise and lengthwise. So this will cut, I believe, let's see here. So it will cut 16 inches out. So I think it's the widest one you can get. Same thing, has the adjustable here. Can adjust the back, all the presets, totally adjustable. And the special feature of the rigids, and this is also in the 10-inch one, you can push these out in both directions, and you can go all the way up to it goes so far that you have to deal with obstructions. Okay, so I haven't done that before, but anyway, so you slide the fences way over and you have these out, then this is an unprecedented 70 degrees you can go in either direction. What other saw is going to do that? Now, the specific drawback to this saw is that it's freaking huge. So it takes, basically it's 4 feet from here to the back where the cord comes out. And in order to make it fit in here, I had to basically run it between the studs. And I needed to come out 33.5 inches from the back of there to get to the front foot setting on it, which I'll show you later, you'll see it. I probably would have got the Bosch, given enough time, but this one was on sale, really cheap price, and I had the room to deal with it, so I don't mind doing that. If you're in a smaller building, this might really bother you, just how huge this saw is. All right, so I did manage to get my Ryobi saw back, and the Dewalt is now gone. So having examined this closely, it's virtually the same as the little one, the 7¼ inch Ryobi saw. So it has a blade range of 12 inches, which is pretty good. So all I did with this one is I just make a block that's the same height. Whenever I got to cut a lot of wood, I wheel this one outside, or if I got to take this one with me, it doesn't weigh that much. I am not getting rid of this saw. It only bevels one way. Doesn't matter because I have the other saw, but I really didn't need it to when I was using it. I don't mind this saw as long as you make sure that you true up the fence and get one of these angle finders for the blade. I'm just going to unplug it for safety reasons here. Okay, so basically you're going to zero this out, stick it on the blade. And we're going to be 89.9, so pretty close to 90. It's not the best angle finder that you can get, but anyway, it's pretty good. But it's far more accurate than trying to read the needle. So if you watch here, there. That's a little more accurate than trying to use the gauge that comes on it. So if you get one of those, I don't really mind this saw because you can do accurate enough cuts for what you're gonna be doing at a beginner, more intermediate level. Yeah, so whatever miter saw that you have, you're definitely gonna want to get one of these. We'll link it in the description down below. They're not expensive. I think they're like $20 or $30 or something like that. And it's gonna take all the guesswork out of it. And then of course you're gonna have a square to square that up, and then you can watch videos on how to calibrate these. I'm not going to show you how to do that because there's a million videos out there that I'm sure show you how to do that, so I'm not going to do that. So I had a chance to test this saw out. I didn't actually make any cuts with it, but I had a chance to use it to demonstrate at a job site. So this is the footage of that. I'm not going to go into any great details about the saw because there's many videos about it. I just wanted to point out the higher end of quality that you can get in a miter saw. This is about the best one you can get. And a huge feature of it is the Axial glide arm system. As opposed to having the bars coming out the back, it allows you to have a bench that's much narrower, about 24 inches, whereas mine is considerably larger than that. It has a 14-inch cut capacity at 0 degrees, and the bevel controls are on the front as opposed to the rear, which makes it much easier to tilt it. Okay, so after I said goodbye to my old saw, I had to bring it back up here to make an outro. Okay, so thoughts on this? Absolutely, I do not recommend getting a 10-inch saw like this. Now, if you have a really tight spot that you gotta work in, 12 inches is way better than 10 when it comes to this because you can get through a 2x8 and you can make the 45 on a 2x6. It's gonna make a big difference. So that I don't hate. These two both have adjustable fences if the angles are off, if you need to adjust them. And as far as the bevel, you can adjust the pointer. So they're relatively adjustable. It's just not as easy to do as the bigger ones. So the 10-inch one that you saw me do, that I don't currently have here, is my saw. I'm pretty happy with it, apart from the fact that it's not what I would call a precision tool. That's about as much as I need to say about that. I do not have a problem if somebody wants to buy a 10-inch sliding miter saw that isn't overly expensive, but just know that eventually you're going to outgrow it. Okay, so when we get into the big guys, it's going to be talking about space. So going back to the rigid, like I said, I have to have a ton of space to fit it in there. And we'll show you some footage of that when we're done. Or maybe over right now. I don't know what the guy's going to do. So the Dewalt has a similar problem in that its dust bag, which I don't have, it comes out here, which makes the saw even deeper than the rigid is. which is ridiculous. But if you take the bag out and you use a small vacuum cleaner like this one, then it fits pretty much right in there. Still goes out quite a ways, but it's nowhere near as bad as having that bag stick out the back. This is where the Rigid has a better design, in my opinion, because you can just take the bag off and then the hose is right there, and you already had a mile to work with anyway. So that's definitely a big consideration. I would consider all of these saws that have the adjustable pieces on the front with the degrees, I would consider them all pretty much good enough because they're fully adjustable. It's all going to come down to personal preference and cost, in my opinion. So if I had to do it over again, I probably would get the Bosch, but I'm not unhappy with the Rigid. I definitely not going to get rid of it. I could go with the Dewalt too. I was actually very pleased with the Dewalt. It's just a little bit more money than I wanted to spend. Now, having said that, this is about building up a shop on a budget and kind of where you should put your money. So if I was going to do it over again based on my experience, I would definitely get a used miter saw off of Marketplace, or I would probably be okay with getting the Ryobi one for the very reason that I really didn't appreciate how bad it was not to have a table saw until I got a table saw. And the only real advantage of having a miter saw is doing beveled miter cuts where you have it tilted and mitered at the same time, which you're probably never going to do, or rarely you're going to do it. And if you don't have the equipment, you probably won't do it. But you can do so much more on a table saw. So the table saw is just, I would definitely not go without this. Once I got it, I was like, I'm never going without a table saw ever again. So look into table saws. This one is the cheapest good one you're going to want to get. It's the 8¼ inch Dewalt. We'll link this in the description, as well as we're going to link every saw that we can in the description. You can kind of just look for yourself. But I'm not in the business of turning my woodworking channel into a tool salesman channel. So I'm not trying to get you to buy anything specific. I'm just trying to get you to look at the best way of doing things for your own interest. And buying this table saw was the best decision I ever made. So we'll get more into that in the overall tool series. Okay, so I'm going to definitely want you guys to leave in the comments what your thoughts are on this, because I think that, you know, some of this is going to come down to personal preference. I'm going to suggest that a table saw be more of a priority, but that's not for everybody. Depends what you're doing. So just think about what you're doing and think about the best way to do it. And just remember, if you buy a decent miter saw off of Facebook Marketplace for, I don't know, if it's $150 and it's worth $150, you can use it for a year and get your $150 back. If you're buying it new, then you're going to take a bit of a loss on it, but, you know, we'll discuss more of that when we're kind of going into the economics of tool shopping. Okay, so we've done all of the editing, cutting up, and we got the video almost ready to go out, and I realized that there's a couple of things missing that I did not mention, and one of them is we're going to kind of show a representation of the front sliding miter saw, which would be like your Makita and your Festool. You can research those, of course, but I don't have any of those to demonstrate. That's why we didn't do it. It serves the same purpose as the Bosch, saving space, having it all coming out the front as opposed to the back. The other thing I did not mention, blades. Doesn't matter how expensive your miter saw is, you have to have good blades. A lot of people will say you have to have 80, 100 tooth blades. It really depends what you're doing. I build everything out of construction lumber, so I'm fine with these 60 tooth Diablos. And you just got to make sure it gets up to full speed and you go slow, and then you won't have all the tear out. Okay, so this is the reason why I bought this saw. Is because I can go all the way down through a 2x8 that way. You definitely don't need to do that. It's just something that I like to do, so that's why I wanted a saw with a 12-inch blade, but a 10-inch blade is probably fine for most people. All right, so a quick summary. Compound versus slider, 10-inch versus 12-inch. I don't recommend 10 at all. If you get a 12-inch compound, probably pretty good. I definitely recommend a slider. Slider, 10-inch, 12-inch. And then, of course, the big factor with these is going to be your single bevel versus your double bevel. And the other thing is going to be your adjustable indent plate there versus your non-adjustable plate on this one. So that's kind of the things you should be looking for. Figure out what's important to you and make up your own mind accordingly. Anyway, be sure to like this, share it, subscribe. And like I said, leave us a comment. We'd really appreciate it. So we're going to leave a video over here on starting a woodworking business on a budget. And we'll leave another video of something similar in the other box. All right, thanks for watching.